Welcome back to the Kooky Corner, and we are going to carry on with our piece that we're doing, which is this flower, lollipop flower embellished piece of needle felting. We did our background, and now we're going to add in some detail and embellishment. So for the detail for the stalks of your flower, you can use ordinary felt, or you can make yourself a little bit of felt out of some wool, which I've done with these. I literally just laid out some fibres, needle felted it around, and then cut out the shape of the leaves that I wanted for this front flower. So what we're going to do now is to position our stalk. I'm going to use the pen needle felt for this. And I'm just going to felt that in. Just like that. I'm going to do the same for this one here. I'm just going to move that leaf off for a second. Let me remove that out of my way. So taking that into the felt behind, and it felts in nicely. Okay, we're going to do that on all the other ones, and then you're going to do the same thing with your leaves. So generally looking at this one, I did 2 leaves for the back one, I did 1 leaf for that one there, 1 leaf for this one here, and 2 of these bigger green leaves for that front one, which is standing out on its own. So I'm going to go off and finish felting down my stalks and leaves, and then we'll be back here in a second. So you go and do the same, and we'll be back here to have a look at the embellishments that we add in. Okay, if you're back with me, we have a needle felted our leaves and stems down, and now we're going to add in some of the stitches. The stitches are really simple, easy stitches. I will go through some of them with you. So the first thing that I did, looking at the background, I have created some very simple running stitches in different directions. So I've gone round in this one here, and then this is like semicircles just going round and round at the bottom there, a little bit more up there, straight stitch going up there, and just generally some more semicircles here and here. So that's the first thing you're going to do. So what I want you to do is have a look at your piece and pick out some contrasting shades to the background that you're going to do. So you're looking at blues, greens for this piece, your piece. It might be completely different, but grab hold of your threads and thread up one of your threads. I have used the 6-strand cotton, the DMC cotton here. There's also anchor cotton as well that you can use, or any other threads that you have. You can maybe have something like this, which is a pearl thread. That's perfect for it as well. So anything that you've got like that would be awesome in the colour that you want it to be in. So I'm going to gather my threads, you go and have a look at your threads, and we'll bring back to the table the threads and needle, and we'll do some of this stitching, and I'll show you basically the stitches that we're going to use, and none of them are hard, I promise you. Okay, so I'm back with an array of threads here. They're falling on top of me. Just as an embarrassment, I'm just going to show you my usual stitching bag. This is where I put all my threads. I do have organised sections as well, but these are the ones I take out with me. They're kind of like all thrown together, and somehow it kind of inspires me. I do cross stitch as well and other kind of embroidery things. They are organised, I promise you. But for my just general embroidery, this embarrassing little bag is what I tend to pull my threads from. You can see there's gold, pink, all different varieties, all different sizes of embroidery thread in there. Yeah, just getting my embarrassing confessions out of the way. So I have two of those. I've got two of those bags. This one's slightly more organised. I've got my little scissors in there. It's got my stitching needles in there, and I've got a little bit of neon thread there. Don't think I used it in this piece. No, I didn't. Also, I have these, which are like little lolly sticks with all my threads wrapped around them. Obviously not used lolly sticks, can I say? Not ones that I've eaten all the ice creams, otherwise I would have eaten quite a lot of the ice creams off there. These are just packs of lolly sticks, the craft variety, and I thought they're quite handy just for winding around some threads in order to be a little more organised in my bag. So first of all, let me move those out of the way. I was just going to do confession at the moment. These are the anchor pearl threads that I mentioned that are different to the stranded threads. So these have got 6 strands to them, and on some occasions we'll use 3 of the strands in this piece. Not very often. I think it was just basically for the stems, the little decoration of the leaves, that I used a 3 strand one of these. So I'd separate this out into 3. I'll show you when I get to it anyway. But yeah, so there's these kind, and then you've got some thicker ones if you've got them, some thicker pearl ones. Let me see if I can find one in here in the mess that is my bag. Digging around. Please have some. Okay, here we go. This is the messy bag one, but yeah, that thickness is quite a thick. It's thicker than this thickness. Can you see? Can you see the difference in those two? Yeah. So whatever you've got, whatever colours you want to use, just pick some out and let's get going. So what I'm going to do is pop that to one side for a minute. I've got so many threads, people, it is unbelievable. Okay, so where am I going to start? I'm going to start on this little one at the top here. Actually, no, I lie to you. I'm going to do the little running stitches in the background. That's what I said we were going to do. So I'm going to use some of this pearl thread for a change to do some stitches going down in between there. Just want to go down to about there, I think, with them, because you can see these are different. They're not the same. They're in the same vein, but not completely the same. So cut myself off a length of thread, grab my needle. I'll take you in a little bit closer to see the detail of the stitches as well. Some people don't knot the end of their threads. I do. I'm a rebel. I don't care. I just like to make life easier. So let's take you down a little bit. So let's move that on out of the way. This is simply the case of putting your needle in and taking it out again. It is that simple a stitch. So I'm just doing, it's like a running stitch, and just bringing it out a little bit further along. You can make your stitch as big or as small as you want it to be. It is up to you. You're just getting some kind of texture into your piece. It's very therapeutic. it's just an in and an out. I go in, out a little bit further along, and it's just adding in a little bit of texture and interest into your piece. And get to about there, I'm going to take it back up again. So I'm going to come out a little further along and a little further up, because I don't want all my running stitches to be going in the same way. It's like a bit like bricklaying. You want to kind of go in between where the gaps are. Bricklaying and embroidery, you get to do everything here, don't we? The bricklaying method. See if I can patent that. The bricklaying method of embroidery. That's going to be my new book. If only. So you can see how quick this builds up. You can flip around your piece. You don't have to put it onto an embroidery hoop or anything silly like that. Not that I'm saying embroidery hoops are silly, because I do use them for certain things, but for these small pieces of felt, it's quite stiff. It's not going to flop around too much, and you can quite easily just keep it in hand just to work with. So I'm going to take that one a bit further down, and then I'm just going to go above this leaf here and in and out again, which is really simple, something really easy. You don't have to think about this too much. Sometimes in the winter I will take this and sit in front of the TV and stitch it because it's just a nice thing to do. I'm one of those people who can't sit for a long length of time without doing something. The tragedy of this is that I fall asleep. If my hands aren't doing something and I'm not busy and I'm sat, sign of the old age, isn't it? I just drop off. I can fall asleep anywhere, literally. It's one of my talents. Okay, so we've got that one in there, and we can now have a look at adding some into here. What I'm going to do it in is like little circles for this one. So I'm going to grab a different colour thread and go this nice blue colour. And you can use this pearl thread, you could use a thicker thread, you could use a stranded thread. If you use a stranded thread, you can use it any thickness you like. I like to use it a full thickness when I'm doing these stitches, just because I do. I don't know why, there's no reason, no rhyme or reason to it. It's just personal preference. Let's put it down to that one. So I'm going to do some running stitches here, but I'm going to do them in like little, helps if you put a bigger knot on the end so it doesn't come through. Let's try that, shall we? So I'm starting at this end, and I'm going to go round in semicircles. So it's going to go round here, come out there, and that's the starter of your semicircle. And then we just take it wider, so I'm going to go in there and out there. In there, out there. You'll get a feel for this as you do it. You'll know instinctively almost where you want stitches to go, and it is just adding interest and some texture into the background of your piece. I'm going to go out there and bringing it back around again. Obviously, as your semicircles get bigger, then you're going to have more stitches to do till you get to the end. That makes sense. You can follow whichever lines you want to do. You can do diagonals, you can do zigzag lines, you can do meandering, I don't know, bumpy lines, whatever you like. I'm going to keep going with this. I'm just going to finish off this last bit here. So coming out a little bit more bricklaying method of stitching, which is going in between the gaps. You don't have to do this way. You do you. I always say that, don't I? But it's true. I can give you the ideas and the bare bones, but I'd like you to have a go and run with it and see what else you can do. It's there are no embroidery police who are going to come and get you for doing it the wrong way. I promise. Okay, so you can see we're building up some texture. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away, I'm going to complete some more. I'll come back and show you what I've done, so if you wanted to add any more, and you can do, or you go ahead and do more wherever you'd like them to be, in whichever colours you'd like them to be. The only thing I'll say is on the background, try and stick to colours that match in with your background, so like greeny blues on my occasion here. If you have got different colours, match your colours to your background. And off you go and enjoy, do some running stitches, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so show you where I've been. So I did some stitches down there, I did a semicircle there, I did a semicircle going around there, I did some diagonal stitches going there, and I did a small semicircle there. And I'm going to leave it there for a minute because I can probably see later on if I need to add in anything else. I just wanted to get some texture down before I start to do the flowers. A little bit of fluffy bit there, doesn't matter, it's going to be covered over soon anyway. So looking back to our original piece, all we have here is a selection of straight stitches, some little daisy stitches, and some back stitching basically, and then the last thing we've got is some French knots. So let's start with the straight stitches around our main flower. The main flower is going to be the one that takes all the glory, has all the extra embellishments added onto it. So to make it stand out, you have to have something contrasting against your main flower colour. Mine's yellow, I've got a red centre, so I'm going to do some red petals for this one. This is out of my scrappy bag, as you can see. It's messy. Can I find an end is the question. Yes, I can is the answer. Don't cut too long a thread. There's an ongoing battle in embroiderers' minds about how long is too long. A lot of people say it should be like from the tip of your finger to your elbow. I go a little bit longer than that. And people say, why can't you just get the longest thread you can possibly get and then just go with that? There are two reasons for this. The main one being it's going to, as it pulls through the fabric, if you're pulling all of that through, it weakens the fabric, it weakens the thread. So you're liable to get more breakages in your thread, number one thing. Number two thing, you're more likely to get knots in your thread as you stitch. It's a sad fact. A lot of the knots that you might get, you can get rid of. But if they've pulled really tight, you might just have to fasten it off and start again, which causes you more problems than none. So just be mindful of how much thread that you're taking onto your needle at any one point in time. You can always recharge it with more, it's all good. So I've just come up from the back, put a knot in my thread. From the back I've come through to the front, and all I'm going to do now for this one is I'm going to do a fairly long stitch. I come back down, space it out however you want to space it out, back down to the flower and back out again, and all you are doing is that. It's that simple. Okay. I'm not watching what I'm doing, so I have to be mindful of where my finger is behind this piece. But it really is that simple and easy. You could use a thin yarn. I was thinking this as I was stitching. If you've got any yarns, if you're a knitter or a crocheter and you've got some thin crochet yarns or knitting yarns, you could use that as well. Use what you have. That's what I will say to you. Don't go out and buy something specifically unless you really want to. If this is your fancy to go and get yourself a whole handful of new threads and things, then please, I'm not going to stop your fun, because I love doing that too. But if you're on a budget and you can't afford to go out and buy new threads, use what you have. If you've only got this kind of thread, the cotton thread, you could measure out 6 lengths of this and put them together, and that would do the same job. As I say, just use what you have. It's nice to use the threads that you want to use and to have some nice special threads, but I appreciate the fact that I've got a lot of stuff. This has been gathered through the years. This is not me just running out and buying a whole host of stuff. It's the same with everything I have. I gather things, and people find out that I do this and they will bring me threads. I had a lovely people at work where I worked, and they used to bring me constantly little bits of things. I was the college womble, and so people would bring me old bags that went round oranges, because they know I use that kind of thing in my print work, or buttons. I used to come regularly back to my desk, and a lovely lady called Ruth would have brought me a whole host of little goodies and left them in an envelope on my desk, and it was always a nice little treat to find out what she'd left for me. I had another colleague who sadly, I think it was her grandparent had died. Her grandparent was a big embroiderer or cross stitcher, and they brought me the threads, which was beautiful and lovely. They knew they weren't going to use them themselves, and they knew that I would use them, because I also used to run a craft club as well, and so it was nice that they would get used. So yeah, I diverted, but just use what you have. I seem to have gone a little too small on that stitch for some reason. I'm just going to go back in and make it bigger. I could go back and unthread it all, but who's got the time for that? Who's got the time and patience for that? No one, I say. And again, there are no embroidery police who are going to come and say, oh, you didn't do that right. Well, maybe some people will, but who are they? Who are they? We don't care about them. We just want to do our thread. Now here comes the ever-lying worry of an embroidery. You've got a certain amount of thread on your needle, you've got a certain amount of stitches that you want to do, and you just hope and pray without having to rethread. Hands up who thinks that. Tell me, I'm not the only one. You kind of like doing a little prayer in your head that you're gonna have just the right amount of thread to finish off those last few stitches. If I'd run out of thread down there, I wouldn't have bothered about it. I wouldn't bat an eyelid. But because I'm getting to the end now, I want to make sure that I've just got enough. And thankfully, I have just got enough to finish off around the edge of this flower. I want you to be a lot neater than me. Or if you like it messy, go messy. Again, there are no rules, but I've gone a bit off piste. I was having a conversation with you, my friends, and didn't concentrate fully on what I was doing, but again, it's one of those things that you can do and you don't have to fully concentrate. If you don't think you have got enough on there, just go back in and add more in. You can just go to town with this. If you look at this one up here, it's the same method, but I've got some long stitches which I did all the way around, and then I interspersed them with smaller stitches which went all the way around again. It works. It's a way. You can do it however you want to do it. So that's that one. I'm just going to pause there for a second. I'm going to rethread. I think I'm going to try and find some purple to go in like a little running stitch spiral in the middle of here. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so I'm back with some shiny purple thread this time. So this is like the running stitches that we did for the background. So come up at the top end of the middle of your flower, and we are just going to do a running stitch all the way around. Oops, getting everything wound up in this now. Going around. I have to do this on the hottest day of the year as well, don't I? If you could see me now, I look like I've been drenched by a shower. It's an internal shower, people. It's internal. When they say the phrase, I don't know if you've heard this one, sweating cobs, that's exactly how I am at the moment. I am sweating cobs. I saw a really funny meme on Facebook the other day. I'm just going a bit leery with my thread at the minute, and it said that it's so hot at the minute that I threw up into the air some flour, some eggs and some milk, and it came down as a Yorkshire pudding. That's about as hot as it is. If you don't know what a Yorkshire pudding is, it is basically a mix of those things, and then you cook it in fat, melted fat, in the oven until it's light and fluffy, and it goes with your Sunday dinner, a traditional English Sunday dinner, which could be beef or chicken or anything like that. The reason behind Yorkshire pudding was that if you didn't have enough money to feed your family, this is the truth behind Yorkshire pudding. Yorkshire pudding was a way of filling you up so that you didn't have things that cost the earth, like beef or chicken or pork, or traditionally it's with beef. I mean, your Yorkshire puddings are traditionally with a roast beef, but in order to fill up a large family, you'd have some Yorkshire puddings as a little filler, and that's basically why we have a Yorkshire pudding. I'm so glad we do have Yorkshire puddings. They're one of my favourite things. Okay, so you can see I've gone around there in my spiral. If you look in the middle of this one, I've got like a little French knot, so I'm going to show you how to do French knots now. So you come up in the middle of your flower, and then you take your needle down to the base and you wrap. I'm going to do 3 wraps around this one, and it goes back inside, and you've got to try and hold that thread down with your thumb, otherwise it all goes horribly wrong. Watch it all go horribly wrong now for me. My fingers are slipping because I'm just so hot. Let's it's not going to go through now, is it? It's obviously caught up on something. There we go. So I'm holding that thread down, and then you've got a little French knot there. I'll show you how to do those again further along the line, but in the middle of each of your flowers, if you look at this one, got a little French knot. I'll fasten that off at the back, and that one's done. Snip it off. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one for a minute. I might actually, I'm going to add things into this one. I'm going to take another stitch further out because I think this one needs to be bold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an orange thread and make this even bolder. I'll be back when I've done that because you know how to do those. And I will show you how to do these little threads here. Okay, so these little stitches here for the petals that go around both of these ones. So once you've known one, you can do both. Okay, so I'll be back in 1 second and we'll do that. Okie dokie, so let's have a look at this one here now. I have pink on this one. I think I'm going to stick to that. Find my pink thread out. Here we go. I'm going to stick with the 6 strands as well, so that's nice and thick. Cut myself a length off. Thread up my needle, or needle the thread. It's going to be awkward now, isn't it? I think everything's awkward in the heat, isn't it? Everything gets more harassing. Should be happy we've got some nice weather. That's certainly a bonus. Okay, so threaded my thread. We've got our piece. I'm going to come up on the top of my flower. Now, this is the way I do it. I go back in where I came out. Not totally, otherwise you'll just pull your thread out completely. And you need to wrap around your thread. And where that loop is, you just take it back underneath. So you're kind of catching it hold down there. Let me do that again. So I come out at a point a little further on. You can do it like this if you like. Hold your thread up there if you like, it makes it easier. Go up to where you want your petal to be. Make sure your thread's wrapped around it. Come up. And when you've got your petal, go back down with a little holding stitch just to hold that in place. One more time. So in the top of your flower, hold your thread up there, out of the way, so hold it there, go back inside, come up to the top of where you want your petal to be, pull it gently, don't put it too tight otherwise you'll throw out the petal shape, and go back inside with a little stitch just to hold that petal in place. One last time, just for luck. Going in, coming out, holding the thread over that side. You don't have to do this, you can wind it round if you want to. It's just one way of making your petal. Gently to make the petal shape, and then back in with that holding stitch there. Let's do a winding round one, shall we? Go in and go through, come out to where I want it to be, wind it round myself, try not to pull out all the needle felting underneath it. I can felt that back down, and a holding stitch. And you just go all the way around your flower doing that. So I'm going to continue till I get to the end there. You also continue in there, back inside, wrap your thread round, little holding stitch. you get confused, you can always go back and watch this bit again. Okay, I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Okay, my petals are all finished. If you can see on this one, I have come up into the center of the flower because we're going to do the thing that we did before, which is a little French knot. I think in this one I've got a bead, but it doesn't matter. Beads, French knots, all do the same job. So wrapping it around once, twice, 3 times, holding that thread down with my thumb, going back inside. See, this one's going in easier. And then pulling it to get a little French knot. And that we can just fasten up on the back. And snip it off. And that's your flower completed. We're going to do some more things to this with gold thread, but for now that's the basic embroidery done on that one. What you do on this one, you can also do on this one in a different colour, and a smaller petal. See the smaller petals on that one there. And this one is just a long and a short stitch like I did on this one, going around this one here. And this one at the bottom, I just went round it and I made some very big French knots all the way around it. So let's have a look at this one, and I will show you basically what I did. I used quite a thick thread for this one, so I'll just thread up and then I'll show you what I did for this one, and then basically you're good to go to finish all of this off. Apart from these little bits here, I'll show you how to do the leaves and stems, but for the rest of your flowers you're basically just copying one or other of the techniques that we've previously done. So I'm going to thread up to show you how to do the big French knots around this. I've shown you how to do French knots in the center of your flower, so it's the same principle, we're just using a bigger thread. Okay, so I'll go and do that now. Okay, so I threaded up. This is quite a very thick cotton embroidery thread. You could also use yarn if you've got a thin yarn to use. Right, so I'm going to start at the top of my flower. Start anywhere on the flower that you want to. I'm going to pull it up through. It's going to take a little bit of pulling because it's quite a thick thread. I do a 1 and a 2. 2 only on this one because of the thickness of the thread. I'm still holding that down. I'll pull my needle back down through. Hopefully. It didn't. Let's try that one again. I know what happened. It just disappeared back into itself. That will do. You can do that all the way around now. So come out a little bit further down. 1, 2, back inside where you came out, pull it through, and you get that little French knot. Again, go in a little further along. Let me move that one out of the way a minute. Don't want to get that one caught up. Hold of my needle, wrap once, twice, back in, pull it through, and you've got a little French knot on the outside there. If you want to practice French knots on a separate piece before you do this so that you can get a handle on it, it's not a bad idea. Sometimes it's good just to do a practice. So once, twice round, back in, holding that thread, oops, not wrapped around it, and back out, and you go all the way around your flower to get to your French knots that way. And I'll be back in a minute, and what I am going to do is I'm going to complete the rest of my French knots. I'm going to do the petals on this one, do the petals on this one, and then I'll show you a little bit of straight stitch decoration that you can do on this one. You could literally do this however you want to. It's just basically like this stitch, but you're just going in a zigzag all the way around it. or you could just do straight stitches all the way around that one. It really is up to you, or you could do something completely different. When I come back, mine will be completed to the point where we're going to add in the other little details. Okay, so back again. You can see that I have completed all my flowers. I went around that inner edge with some gold thread. Instead of doing beads, I just showed a different option. So you don't have any beads, which some people don't. I find it strange, but no, I'm joking. If you don't have beads, and as I say, some people don't, then just French knot it. You get a similar effect with a French knot as you do with the beads. So if you haven't got beads, make do with what you've got. Do some French knots in a contrasting colour, and that will work just as well. You may not like the metallic. If you don't like metallic, leave it out. I am a magpie, as I explained to everybody on this channel, and I like a little bit of that. I improvised a little bit here as well because that one was lower down on my other piece, so I've just added a little stalk in and a little leaf with some thread, using the same technique as I use to make the petals. And that's that as far as stitching is concerned. We still need some thread in order to do some sequin work and some beadwork. Again, omit the beadwork if you don't have beads, just do French knots wherever there are beads, or don't, or just add something else in. I mean, basically it really is up to you. I lied when I said we finished with the stitching, because we haven't, because what I want to do next is to do the leaves. So add a little bit of detail into the leaves, and maybe also the stem, because you could do little like lines across there just to add interest. So I'm going to get some green thread and I will show you what we do with that. Okay, so I've got some dark green thread because that's going to contrast quite nicely with the light green leaves, apart from this one where we'll need a different colour, but we'll come to that in a minute. So I said that these have got 6 strands, and this is the occasion where we're going to need to split them. When you split them, don't go too quickly, otherwise it will tangle up. Okay, a heck of a knot. You can see it's tangling already there. Just take it gently, pull it out at one end if you need to, so that you can just get that clean pull away. Now we've got 2 lots of 3. I'm going to pop one to one side. We may need that depending on how our thread lasts for us. So, needling my thread, I will now put a little knot in. This is super simple. You can either do it in small stitches, but I'm going to do it in a big long stitch right from the stem. Okay, and I'm going to take it to about there. So I've got a really long green stitch, and what I'm going to do is come in from the sides on a diagonal and just go over that to hold it down. Really simple to do. So coming from the outside of the leaf, just going on a diagonal over that stem that we put in the middle, and doing the same on the other side. Really simple stitch. Sorry for the traffic noise if you can hear it. I have all the windows and doors open in my studio at the minute, which is probably a silly thing to do, but it does create a through draft which is my saviour for today. So there you've got your leaf. If you wanted to as well, you could go down your stem with just some small stitches. It's all an if or a but. That's if you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. You could do it with a contrasting thread as well. It's just about adding texture and interest into a piece. And you can do it on one, you can do it on all of them, or you could do it on none. Okay, let's fasten that one off. Wrap it round, put it through, snip it off. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on these leaves here, and I'll be back. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to try and find a contrasting thread to that very bright green. So that's quite nice, and I'm going to do my leaf detail in this on that. Back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Okay, so I have done the details on my leaves. I did the contrasting colour on that one because it wouldn't have shown up with that one there. And now we're on to some extra special decoration. So for this flower, as we said, this is going to be the star of the show, and so we're going to add some beads into it. So I've got these little, got 2 different colours. Obviously the yellow one's not going to go, but this green one is going to be a beautiful. So carefully as you take that lid off. I've got some ordinary thread here because it's a little bit thinner and I don't have to worry about it too much. It's nice and strong because it's a polyester thread. And I've got a much thinner needle. It has got a very tiny head, and I am hoping against hope that this is going to thread without too much trouble, she said. Or I might have to get my threader, which would be trouble, but not too much trouble. No, we're all good. We're all good. Okay. Beading is really simple. It is stitching, but adding in a little bead. Oh, I amaze myself sometimes. Okay, so round that centre bit there, that's where we're going to add beads. So I'm going to come out at the top of there. I'm going to go into my beads, I'm going to thread one on, and just go back in as close as I can to where I put the stitch. That's one bead. Go in again, grab myself a bead. I've got 2 there. Do not require 2, I just need 1. And go back in. And this needle is very thin, very long and very bendy, but it's great. It is a specifically made for purpose beading needle. And so handy to have in one's sewing stash. And do recommend that you grab hold of a beading needle if you intend to do beading. Obviously, if you're just going to do this as French knots, then you don't have to worry about it at all. Add the beading in, add the beading in. Very relaxing, I have to say. These are such a nice colour bead. They're not a shiny bead, they're like a matte bead. You can go shiny if you've got shiny beads, do it. You know I like shiny. And you put as many or as few of these as you want to do. And that's it. While I've got my needle threaded, I am going to add in some sequins. Now, I've got smaller sequins on this one, but I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go with the ones that I have on my desk, which are these ones. So they're multicoloured. Oopsie. Multicoloured sequins. I'm just going to pick out a few. I'm going to go all over my desk. This is what's going to happen. And got gold one there. Is that the same colour? Don't want too many of the same. And green one there. And okay, I'm going to go with those. So, any sequins you have, if you don't have sequins, do not worry about it. It is not going to spoil your piece. I'm just going to shake those off and lose half of them. Never mind, I'll find another one in a minute. Okay, to sew on your bead, to sew on your sequin even. You can go up through that middle hole. I've still got my beading needle on here. Oh my gosh, they're all going to fly, aren't they? So I do one stitch down the side, one stitch back up through the centre again, and down the other side. And that's one sequin on. Coming up there, grabbing another sequin. So we go down each side and come up through the centre hole again, down the other side. Do not jab yourself with your beading needle. It is not fun. Not fun. Okay, come here, sequin. I'm going to go out of here and I'm going to have sequins stuck to my foot and various parts of me because I'm sweating, and sequins are just going to stick. If you don't have sequins or beads, as I say, the French knots will suffice for beads. Sequins a little harder. If you don't like sequins, don't put them in. Just have to find some other way of making this a really special flower. So you could add in some more stitching, or because this is the focal point, this one here is the focal flower. Don't you just hate it when you miss the hole in the middle? I doubled my thread somehow. There we go. Ooh, come on, don't catch on the edge. One there. And then we'll put one more in and I'll call that sequined. If you use smaller ones, you will use more than this. Obviously, I think I got, actually no, maybe not. Yeah, I got 8 on there. I'm going to get about 7 on this one. That's about right for the size of it. Let's have a green one. Oh, it's going to fly away. Okay, so coming up in my spot, get my green sequin. Don't want to lose the end of my thread already. Going in, coming up through the centre, coming out. There. Let's dig that in, fasten it off. And that's our flower sequined. We're almost there, people, we're almost there. Now, I'm going to let you complete this in the way that you see fit. Obviously, on this one, I've added some sequins into little spaces. So when I've got little space, you can either do one of two things. You can add in an embellishment. So I've left a space there specifically because, you know, I like to put stars and things. Well, I've got some glitter fabric that I'm going to cut a star out of and put there. You could put anything you like there. You could put a ring of sequins there. You could put some metallic thread there in the spiral. If you've got wire, you could coil some wire up and put that there and then just stitch that down. I have got a sequin down at the bottom here, which I've just stitched in with metallic thread. That's also an option. So yeah, I've just got 2 other sequins on here on this piece, and then my star. But I'm going to let you have a little play around. Do what you like with yours, finish it off however you want to, because basically even at this stage you could call it finished. I'm just extra, so I put some French knots in that corner and a sequin, French knots down there and a sequin with a little star, and then a big metallic star there. If you've got some shaped sequins, so if you've got some star shaped ones, you could stitch those on. But the world is your lobster. You can do whatever you like with this, so enjoy, have fun, finish your beautiful stitched and needle felted piece of artwork, and then you can frame it. What I will do with mine is I've got some of this felt and foam glue, and I cover it all on the back there, and I stick it onto a piece of canvas board, and that's a piece that could be framed. So you can do with these as you will, but yeah, that's it, your little lollipop flowers made in needle felted and embroidered and embellished form. I will see you all very, very soon. Take care and don't melt in the heat. Take care, lovelies. See you soon. Bye.